This is a story of a crime splattered with blood, sex, and lies, where the defendants Salvador and Mara, a sex addict, come up with a plan to get rid of Maria's husband, Antonio. Mara Jess allegedly invented a story of abuse to convince her lover he needed to protect her from the violence of her husband. The brutal tale of Maria has shocked Valencia City, where residents have given her the epithet Black Widow after the deadly spider that eats male partners. Mara Jess was born in Valencia, Spain, in September 1990. She grew up in an affluent family with strong religious convictions. She and her 4 siblings enjoyed a privileged upbringing. At an early age, Maria loved to paint. She won multiple art contests with her paintings, but when she began to mature, she changed completely. During her adolescence, she discovered the nightlife and became more sociable and outgoing. She used her physical attractiveness and seduction skills to manipulate men and make them fall at her feet. One of the unlucky men that she caught in her web was Antonio Navarro, who was 6 years older than her and whom she had met in Barcelona, got married to, and had a tumultuous relationship with. After high school, Maria went to Barcelona to study nursing. Barcelona was everything she wanted. She made new friends and vowed never to return to her hometown. During her hospital internship, she met Antonio, a seasoned engineer, and her brother's old college friend. In 2011, they hit it off. They started dating, and it was seemingly Antonio's first ever serious relationship. His 90-year age gap didn't matter, though. Age was just a number to Antonio. After 5 years together, Antonio proposed, and they got married on September 3, 2016. After some time in their marriage, the couple started to have marital problems. Maria complained that Antonio's controlling nature suffocated and dominated her, while Antonio suspected Mara was cheating on him. They were both polar opposites. Mara loved to socialize and party, while Antonio wasn't very outgoing. The murder. Antonio's murder took place on August 16, 2017. Antonio was ambushed in the garage of his house and brutally stabbed. The crime appeared personal, as there were no signs of robbery, and the killer had access to the garage with keys. 8 hours after his death, Antonio's lifeless body was discovered by a neighbor. When the police arrived, they thought it was a botched robbery, but then they saw Antonio's belongings untouched, especially his wallet. The police began investigating the case and discovered the connection between Mara Jess, Salvador, and the murder. But before that, it was discovered that whilst married to Antonio, Maria's love and sexual relationships were a lot. During and after her wedding, her partner Salva, Toms, a physical therapist, Jos, a publicist, and Sergio, a Barcelona city guard. 3 days after Antonio's death, his family held a funeral for him. Mara cried so hard and even read a heartfelt letter that she wrote to him. The police started to investigate and, as usual, decided to ask Maria first, being Antonio's wife. During an interview with her, Maria had given an alibi, claiming she had been at work the night before the murder and had even informed Antonio about her shift change through a text. But the police found she hadn't been at work while she was being questioned. Mara was on her phone texting the whole time. The police thought it was strange for someone who just lost her husband. Sensing Mara might be hiding something, they decided to tap her phone. Their wiretaps led to the arrest of 2 suspects, a 42-year-old PR named Jos, whom she started having an affair 3 months after she got married to Antonio. The police suspected Jos might have had a motive to kill Antonio, so they arrested him. However, while they interrogated him, they found out that Jos had no idea that Maria was married when they started dating. He only discovered after he heard about Antonio's death, and despite the lies, he forgave her, and their relationship continued with Jos considering marrying Maria. The police ruled out Jos after this discovery. A month before the wedding, Toms almost ended their engagement, but Antonio forgave her. Salvador, a 47-year-old Maria's colleague, was also arrested due to the phone tap. Salvador is a father of twin 18-year-old girls and married for 22 years. Maria and Salvador started their affair in 2015, right after Maria got engaged to Antonio. Salvador was a nursing assistant who worked alongside Maria. He had been in the same medical center most of his working life, alongside his wife Emma, who was head of the 4th floor. It was revealed that Mara Jess had convinced Salvador that Antonio abused her and that killing him was the only option to be together. Salvador, completely in love with Mara Jess, agreed to carry out the plan and murdered Antonio in the garage of their house. Both lovers were arrested. During the trial, Salvador confessed to the crime and blamed Mara Jess for being the mastermind. Mara Jess, on the other hand, denied asking Salvador to kill her husband. However, the evidence and testimonies demonstrated her involvement in the plan and her emotional manipulation of Salvador. Mara was known to have had at least 5 lovers and one-night stands during her 11-month marriage to Antonio, although none was aware of the existence of the other. She allegedly sounded out more than one of the men about the possibility of ridding her of Antonio, explaining tearfully and untruthfully that she was suffering at the hands of her engineer husband, who, like her, was originally from Novelda. Salvador, her lover at the time, fell for her trick. Court papers revealed that Mara Jess had sexual relations with Salva, with whom she worked in a local hospital with, before and after her marriage to Antonio on September 3, 2016. Following a fierce attraction, Mara, 28, told her lover 20 years her senior that she was having serious problems with her husband prone to violent outbursts. Public prosecutors, however, couldn't find any denouncements or evidence of the abuse. Nevertheless, Salva claimed she gave him a need to protect her, a need that would result in both plotting the murder of Antonio. Salva bought a knife Cibolero 15 centimeters in length. Mara Jess already gave him the keys to the garage at her marital home. Salva then went to the house on Calacalamocha, entered, and hid beside Antonio's car. Guided by the detailed information allegedly provided by Maria, Salvador surprised Antonio on the morning of August 16. Antonio, the engineer, that morning, went to get his car out of the garage to go to work. Salvador assaulted him at 7:40 a.m. with 6 sudden stab wounds he could not defend. The 6 stab wounds Salvador struck caused Antonio instant death. Then he went to a storage room he used, changed his clothes, and threw them into a container. He threw the weapon into the septic tank of a plot of his property, which the National Police inspectors recovered after the accused confessed. On the same day of the crime, Salvador and Maria both met at the house of Maria's sister, who was on vacation, and Salva told her the details of the homicidal action while she sent text messages to Joss, with whom she planned to have sex with. Court's papers revealed Mara Jess arrived crying at 3:30 p.m. The trial. Salvador became obsessed with Mara after he met her in 2015 at the hospital where they both worked. She was a nurse and he, 20 years older, married and with a daughter, as an assistant. "I would do anything for you," he even told her. The relationship was unbalanced. She was the coldest part, the one in control, and he was the emotional dependent. Salvador's wife and daughter have been distraught since the investigation told the truth. Maria's family waited for the end of the trial to hear the final verdict. Her family had been adamant since the start, saying that if she was condemned, they would no longer consider her part of the family. Her brother had said, "If she really is guilty, she will no longer be my sister." Prosecutors demanded 22 years in prison for Maria. The nurse had been in prison since January for her alleged participation in the murder of her husband, engineer Antonio Navarro Cerdan, along with her lover and confessed author of the crime, Salvador R.L. Even within prison, Mara Jess continued to display manipulative and deceitful behaviors. Despite being exposed and convicted, she showed no remorse for her husband's death. The prosecutor called out 39 witnesses to the stand, 4 of them lovers of the accused woman. Nursing assistant Salvador will face 18 years behind bars for stabbing the victim fatally with a butcher's knife. The jury was presented with 52 pieces of evidence, including recorded conversations, WhatsApps, photos, and the knife. Prosecutors wanted the jury to take note of the size of the knife to prove the intention to kill. Mara got 22 years in prison and 18 for Salvador. The desired sentence would also see both alleged murderers paying $250,000 to the family of Antonio. 3 years and almost 2 months after executing Antonio Navarro in cold blood, Mara Jess Moreno, Maje, and Salvador Rodrigo, Salva, felt close again. They saw face to face, although not in the intimacy of their furtive love, but before the members of the popular jury that as of today judges them for the planned death and stabbing of her husband on August 16, 2016. Both have been in prison for more than 2 years and 9 months, and the circumstances have changed. The passion that both showed in their intimate letters, revealed during the investigation, gave way to the defense strategy of their respective lawyers. A few weeks earlier, on November 8, Mara called her lover to express her concern. Salva already knew at that time that Mara had other lovers and became jealous. which led him to accept the proposal of his beloved to end up waiting at dawn in the darkness of a garage and kill Antonio. The image of both seated before the jury remains in the criminal history of Spain. The testimony of both families. The parents and brother of Antonio Navarro described him as a good-natured man who avoided problems and that he was super in love with his wife. Antonio's mother, Mercedes CM, described the day she learned of her son's death as something horrible, a nightmare in which she only asked to see him while her daughter-in-law didn't even speak to her. On the contrary, the mother of the accused, Consuelo C., had exposed to the court the doubts that she always raised about her marriage. They were like oil and water, she said, and of course, I advised her to get a divorce, but in addition, Maria's mother gave a new version that her daughter supposedly told her what happened. She said that according to her daughter, Salvador had faced Antonio. They had fought, and Salvador killed him in self-defense. The president of the court asked her for clarification as to when that conversation took place, and she said she was told before her daughter, Mara's arrest. The involuntary affirmation of her mother damaged the defense strategy of Mara's lawyers, Javier Boa and Alicia Enjar. The version didn't match the defense thesis that Mara didn't know what had happened until Salvador told her. According to the account of the events of the public prosecutor's office and confirmed by the police, Salvador bought a knife at a hardware store, wore gloves, and waited for his victim, hidden on the third floor of the garage. According to the prosecutor, he attacked him treacherously without the possibility of defending himself. There was no discussion or confrontation between the two men. Vicente, Antonio's brother, gave more details of the scene on the afternoon that the crime occurred. He said Mara was lying on the sofa, looking at the ground, stunned. Vicente said that he was surprised when his sister-in-law told him that she was home at noon. The day after the death, both families were summoned to the police station to testify. Mara was with her family and said nothing but good morning to Vincent. Vincent thought it didn't make sense. Mercedes insisted that Antonio had no social life in Valencia. He only went to work and then home. Vicente was asked about the incident with Tom's, a year before Antonio and Mara got married, where Antonio had to kick Mara out of the house where they already lived. According to Vincent, Mara was seeing a caretaker from a nursing home in Petra. Antonio found out about them when he saw a message on her phone. Mara tried to deny it. The wedding was nearly canceled till she called to mend the relationship. Antonio forgave her and even bought her the ring she wanted. Mercedes insisted that her son was wonderful and super educated, a good friend, and he went out of his way for his wife. He didn't care that his parents reproached him for accepting Mara's request to go to Valencia to live when she had a contract in a hospital as a nurse. He didn't care that they didn't like her. He loved her. The weekend before Antonio's death, the couple were in Novelda at his parents' home. They were both kissing in the living room. Antonio's father said they didn't see anything abnormal in those previous days. No arguments, no bad words. Antonio had death insurance and Mara was entitled to 34,000 euros in the settlement, plus the widow's pension of just over 1,100 euros. Mara's mother explained to the jury that the day they both received the autopsy report on Antonio's body, which described the brutality of the attack and the tearing of his heart and lungs, both broke out crying. No one deserves to die like Antonio died. Outro. The case of Mara Jess Moreno is an example of an emotional predator and a manhunter. She used her charm and seduction skills to manipulate men around her, leading them to commit violent acts on her behalf. Her lack of empathy and cold, calculating nature make her a dangerous individual. In conclusion, the case of Mara Jess Moreno, the Black Widow of Spain, is a tragic story of manipulation, deceit, and unchecked ambition that led to the death of an innocent man. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one.